relating to Wodonga Melbourne rail line.
Member for Indi.
Mr Speaker, I move the motion outlined in my name.
Member for Indi has the call.
Thank you.
Is there a seconder? Do we need a seconder on that? At the end of it. Okay, at the time. Member for Indi has the call.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Colleagues, those of you who know North East Victoria probably don't know that we've got a really serious problem with our train service. It's the Melbourne to Albury train line, and we've had this problem for quite some period of time. The problem is one of two particular parts. The line is run by the Australian Rail Track Corporation, owned and operated, reporting to the Commonwealth Government, and the trains on it are operated by V-Line, which is the Victorian Government. And I'm coming to this parliament today, and I'm so pleased to see my member for Murray here as well, to put it firmly in the court of the Commonwealth to take some action to fix this problem up. It's been going on for far too long. So what's the problem? When it was first reported that in November 2016, only 55.2% of services ran on time, this was the least reliable of all services across Victoria. But that was, in fact, the 5th consecutive month where the North East line was the least reliable in the state. I'm told that, and that these statistics come from Public Transport Victoria as of the 1st of January 2017, that only 94.6% of the services that leave Melbourne actually arrive in Albury-Wodonga, and that's the lowest in the state. Only 94.6% arriving. And of those, 65.1% of services on the line were on time. Only 65.1% on time. And this is the second lowest in the state. So the train's not arriving, and when it does, it's late. So we've got a whole lot of associated problems with it. But, Mr Deputy Speaker, I just want to talk about, well, what does that look like in real terms for real people? And I've got a letter that I'd just briefly like to read some of it into the Hansard. This letter is from Irene Grant, and Irene Grant is the chair of the Ovens-Murray Regional Partnership Group, which is a group that's been formed by the Victorian Government to provide some priority around what the issues are that need to be faced. And Irene, on behalf of the community, has rung me up, has visited me and has written to me. And she says, Cathy, I write in my capacity as chair of Ovens-Murray Regional Partnership Committee. The committee includes representatives of the 7 local government areas, as well as representation from state government in my area. And the group has identified key development opportunities and priorities that need to be dealt with for the future. Passenger rail transport is top of mind for our community, with much needed improvement in infrastructure and service delivery times already identified through the 2016 Regional Network Development Plan and the North East Border Rail Group Economic Study, which I'll come to in a minute. We have the least reliable services across Victoria, and she says possibly across Australia. Cathy, I urge you as our federal member to advocate on our behalf to improve all rail services delivery in the North East. So the top community leader for our North East Victoria is saying, please act. And I'd like to reinforce it by a letter from, let me just find the letter, a letter from John Dunstan. John Dunstan is a member of our wonderful local BRAG group, Border Rail Action Group, and his work with the 2 bills have done enormous community work to bring this to attention. And John says, given the ARTC refusal to disclose any information on the extent of the temporary speed restrictions, you may like to use the fact when you're talking in Parliament today that there are 23 sections of the track, Albury to Melbourne, with speed restrictions. 23 sections. So that means because of the condition of the railway line, the trains have to go slower. Therefore, they're obviously going to be late. And he said this is a record since it's been monitored for the last 2 years. And this is in spite of, he says, a completion of $130 million ballast rehabilitation program that's taken place. So we've got a problem. ARTC have tried putting a huge amount of money in. The service is not improving. It's still running late. So what to do about this? I have to say, the responsibility does come back to the Commonwealth Government, because the Australian Rail Track Corporation has only one shareholder. And, Mr Deputy Speaker, that's our minister, the Minister for MP for Gippsland, Darren Chester. He is the only shareholder of the ARTC. So this problem comes back fairly and squarely for the minister to deal with. Now, he has said he will visit, and I think that's a fantastic achievement. We look forward to you visiting, Minister, but when you come, you must come with an answer. Coming and looking at the problem will not be enough for the communities. You must come with an answer to what needs to be done. But having said that about the Commonwealth, the problem doesn't only lie there. We've got this situation that in the contract between the Victorian Government, V-Line, and ARTC was due for renewal in 2014. And the then Brumby government re-contracted with ARTC for a whopping 45 more years of service. Now, we don't know what the conditions of that contract were, but 45 more years of a contract when it's not even working well. So there's a real problem here for the Victorian Government and PTV, Public Transport Victoria, and what are they going to do? And this problem gets played out in our local press. We get the Victorian Government saying it's the Commonwealth, and the Commonwealth says, yes, we're meeting our contractual obligations. This is a problem for the Victorian Government. And neither of them are claiming it. So I've come to this parliament today to say to the Commonwealth and the Victorian Government, this is not an argument we need to have in public. Can you please sit down with our local community and do what needs to be done? So what needs to be done? We've got a fantastic local community groups who've got together. So we've got the Bragg group, and I've acknowledged them already, but we've also got local government have come together. And local government have just commissioned a report called the Hume Corridor Passenger Rail Study. And in that study, they've made clear recommendations of what needs to be done to get this happening in the future. So this problem doesn't exist in isolation from the community, from the Victorian Government and the Commonwealth Government actually sitting down together and saying, let's sort it out. But I have to say, from the community's perspective, we would like some transparency in what's going on. We really would like to know what the contractual obligations are. We really would like to know what the long-term plans for ARTC are, because clearly they know they've got a problem. They don't like the fact that the trains are late, that the community is constantly complaining about it. We know that the ARTC wants to solve the problem. I'm absolutely committed that the government wants to solve the problem. It just can't want to have this level of dysfunction happening. And I'm sure the Victorian Government wants much better service. In the budget last year, the Victorian Government committed $17 million to this particular line, $2 million for planning and $15 million for infrastructure. Now, that was $17 million more than we've ever had from the Victorian Government, so it was welcome. But when I speak to the Victorian Minister, I say that $2 million was for planning so that in the budget this year that you deliver the goods. So we've got a couple of months now between the Commonwealth Government and the State Government and the community can come together and come up with a long-term strategy to address the short-term problems, the medium-term and the long-term. And in bringing my comments to a bit of a close, Deputy Speaker, I really want to talk about the opportunities. Public transport is alive and well. It's well used, there's enormous potential to grow it. The community of Victoria want to use the train. We don't like using the bus for a whole lot of reasons. We want to use the train. So the opportunities there. We know that if the service was better, more people would use it. And my office is constantly bombarded with the problem when things go wrong. Now, clearly, we want to fix it up. So I say to the people in my electorate, the will is there to fix it up. What we need to do now is get the Commonwealth Government, the State Government and the community groups sitting around the table and actually working out what we can do. And so, in just bringing my just the comments to a close, I really did want to talk about the opportunity that I've got at the moment. One of the great fans of transport in northeast Victoria is Tim Fisher. Tim Fisher's been involved in trains forever, and he's been a great fan of high-speed rail and the inland freight route, which I know is going to be really important. But I was talking to Tim yesterday, and his words are this one. He says, Cathy, this year, in fact, on the 17th of October, we're celebrating 100 years of the signing of the contract to set up the first east-west transcontinental link. The Commonwealth Government 100 years ago, signed a commitment into looking at that intercontinental connection. So surely, with 100 years behind us in that celebration, this is the year for the Commonwealth to take the lead role, to work with the state government and the community to give us the assurance that we're going to fix up our train line.
I thank the honourable member for that contribution. Is the motion seconded? Member for Kingston, is the motion seconded?